Good evening. I'm Kathy Baum, President of the Reston Association, and I'd like to welcome you to the 2020 Annual Members Meeting. Life has changed for all of us as we continue to adhere to social distancing guidance from Governor Northam and the Centers for Disease Control. RA has been forced to make adjustments. This virtual meeting is a perfect example of that. 2 months ago, I never expected to be delivering my final remarks as the president from my home via Zoom. That word was something little boys used when they were racing cars. A copy of tonight's agenda and draft minutes from the 2019 annual members meeting, which we'll be voting on this evening, are located on the RA website, www.reston.org. Look for RA briefs on the right side of the homepage. Under RA briefs, you'll see for more information, click here. That will take you to the annual members meeting webpage, which contains the documents. During this meeting, all participants except speakers will be muted during formal presentations. There will be time for member comments, and I'll go over those rules when we get to that part of the meeting. Before we move on to the business of the evening, I want to tell you about some of the actions RA has taken thus far in response to COVID-19 and the impact on business operations. RA has and continues to encourage social distancing through various channels, including placement of signs at facilities and trailheads, and electronic communications, including the RA website, digital newsletters, and social media. We've closed all tot lots, basketball and tennis courts, pavilions, and community buildings, similar to other communities in the Northern Virginia and the Fairfax County Parks Authority. RA committee meetings have been canceled because of Governor Northam's executive orders. On Monday, the governor signed legislations allowing the board of directors and the full DRB board to meet virtually during the current state of emergency. Once the state of emergency expires, meetings of the board and the full DRB will need to follow the format previously used. But the core of the business of the association continues. Employees, with the exception of those at our central service facility, are working remotely. This has enabled the association to continue functioning at a high level to serve our members who need assistance. Our programming staff is making contingency plans for later starts of the various activities and events. Obviously, pools will not open on time this year. We do plan to have aquatics facilities up and running when conditions are safe and governmental regulations permit. The design review panel process is occurring on a weekly basis, and home inspections are being done in a timely manner. Parklands and open space continue to be maintained. Shortly, median strip mowing on major roadways will commence. Capital projects such as the dredging and dock replacement at Lake Ann and several necessary pool projects are proceeding with regulatory and CDC guidelines. Because RA, like most businesses, is anticipating revenue shortfalls because of this pandemic, staff is looking throughout the organization on ways to implement cost-cutting measures. Now, on to business. I am calling the 2020 annual meeting to order. We are here this evening in accordance with the Reston Association bylaws, Article 3, Section 3.1. The annual meeting of members shall be held on the second Tuesday in April or such other date in April, and at a place and time as the board of directors may determine. This year, the board voted to move the meeting to April 30th and subsequently to conduct it virtually when the governor extended his executive order banning large gatherings. The purposes of the meeting is to hear reports on the state of the association, receive and hear the results of the election of directors, and receive comments from members. Tonight's agenda includes approval of the minutes of the 2019 member meeting. I'm going to share some of the accomplishments of the board, committees, and RA staff during the last year. Our CEO, Hank Lynch, will deliver a message. We're going to meet the volunteers of the year. Hunter Mill Supervisor Walter Alcorn will address us. We'll meet the RA Employee of the Year, open for member comments, and then Ed Abbott, Elections Committee Chair, will announce the 2020 Board of Directors election results, and we'll meet the new 2020 board. At this time, I'd like to ask for approval of the minutes.
I move to accept the minutes from the 2019 annual members meeting.
I'll second that. We're going to use the Zoom poll feature now so that you can vote to approve the motion to accept the minutes. On your screen, you should see the poll. We need 51% of tonight's meeting participants to vote in the positive, so please cast your vote now. You'll have approximately 1 minute to continue. Thank you for voting. The minutes are approved. So now let's turn our attention to the state of the association in last year. During the summer and fall of 2019, and I have different color hair this year. During the summer and fall of 2019, RA hired a team of brand strategists to conduct a brand and market research study. The group was to identify the current reputation with members and stakeholders of what it should be, what services and programs matter most, and what else are members looking for. In essence, what should RA keep doing, start doing, or stop doing to meet membership needs? The 2020-2022 strategic plan was approved at the December board meeting. The development process involved the entire board of directors and RA staff. It greatly helped to clarify plans and ensure that all staff and future board members are closely aligned on the best way forward for the organization. Our CEO will be talking about that during his presentation. Another accomplishment of consuming a great deal of the board's time was a biennial budget. The 2020-2021 budget was adopted at the November board meeting. It was developed with the assistance of the Fiscal Committee and RA member input. One of the components of the budget is our office lease. In July, we were able to achieve a significant rent reduction, which will result in great savings over the life of the lease. The 2020 budget totals a little over $19 million with an assessment rate of $708. RA's capital projects team, along with input from other departments and outside consultants, performed a complex reserve study of our capital assets. This evaluation identified 1,300 capital assets and developed a schedule and cost for their replacement over the next 30 years. A reserve study is required every 5 years. The next one will be done in 2024. Keeping RA assets and facilities in top condition remains a priority. Last year, RA invested just over $2.7 million in improvements. Hundreds of truckloads of accumulated sediment were removed from Lake Audubon, and the asphalt lot at the boat ramp was replaced. Over at North Hills, there was a replacement of subsurface irrigation system, fencing, water fountain, clay, and new LED court lighting, and tennis bathhouse entrance. There was work on the tennis courts at North Hills, Shadowwood, and North Shore, work on the pools and spa at Lake Newport, Shadowwood, and North Shore. And then major accessibility upgrades were made to the Walker Nature Center. Speaking of the Walker Nature Center, in November, the Walker Nature Center celebrated its 10th anniversary of the opening of its education building. Over the past decade, there have been more than 206,000 visitors from around the world. 2,400 programs have taken place for people of all ages, from toddlers to seniors. RA's 501c3 supporting organization, Friends of Reston, celebrated its 20th anniversary. Since its inception, Friends has contributed more than $2.4 million to the Reston Association projects. Funds go to a variety of habitat restoration projects, including tree planting, enhancement of recreational areas with bike racks and benches. But as important, Friends of Reston makes funds available to cover some discounted registration fees for our campers. Funds for Friends is made possible by the generosity of valued donors and sponsors. Protecting the aesthetics and property values falls in the appointed volunteers who serve on the Design Review Board and Covenants Committee and RA's Covenants staff. Last year, Covenants continued to digitize cluster standards to make them available online to members. As of now, 73 clusters can access their standards online. DRB processed over 2,000 applications, and Covenants completed almost 1,100 resale requests necessary for a property sale to go to closing. On the activities side, pool pass holders visited the pools almost 100,000 times. Reston Camps celebrated its 45th anniversary with almost 1,700 campers. Reston's tennis youth programs saw 550 registrants. League play by Reston Team Tennis had more than 300 participants last year. Now I'd like to take a few minutes to recognize and thank a very special group of individuals who make our community a special place to live, our volunteers. While the pandemic prevents us from holding our annual Volunteer Reston Awards reception, I wanted to take this opportunity tonight to thank them and recognize them. Volunteer Reston engaged 1,400 individuals who contributed 6,900 hours of volunteer time last year. Those hours provided almost $190,000 of value-added service to the community. Volunteerism is deeply rooted in Reston's history, was one of the core principles of our founder, Bob Simon. The 2019 award recipients are as follows. Sureka Sridhar is RA's Volunteer of the Year. She contributed nearly 200 hours to RA and the Reston community. She performed clerical tasks for the RA Finance and Parks and Recreation departments and volunteered at environmental events while serving on the Environmental Advisory Committee and work groups throughout the year. Kevin Allegre is RA's Youth Volunteer of the Year. Kevin is a sophomore at South Lakes High School. He volunteered at special events and festivals. He also gave his time to Habitat Heroes environmental projects, where he removed invasive plants and participated in community cleanups. Susan Bethel and Erwin Flashman are RA's 55+ volunteers of the year. Sue is the lady on the far end on your left-hand side of your screen, if you're looking for her. Sue and Erwin served on RA's Environmental Advisory Committee and had roles in various working groups. Sue also joined the Potomac Watershed Cleanup. Erwin attended countless RA and Fairfax County environmental meetings. George Mason University Social Action and Integrative Learning Community are being recognized as RA's Group Volunteer of the Year. This group removed invasive plants and installed native trees at Reston's Arbor Day. 35 students also volunteered at the Halloween House and Trick or Treat at the Walker Nature Center. The Bike Lane, with owners Ann Todd and Todd Mater, are the Community Partner of the Year. The Bike Lane store supported various triathlons for many years by providing pre-race and race day support. They're one of the major supporters of the Reston Kids Triathlon since its inception 10 years ago. They've also sponsored weekly group rides for both riders and cyclists and those who are less experienced. And lastly, the Lakes, Docks, and Boats Working Group are honored as the RA Work Group of the Year. Formed in 2018, the Lakes, Docks, and Boats Working Group volunteered 432 hours of their time and energy to improve the rules and regulations associated with Reston's lakes. They met for almost a year, and their hours of service resulted in recommendations to the board of directors. I know I speak on behalf of the entire board and RA staff in thanking all of our wonderful volunteers for their tireless service and commitment to this community. We're truly blessed to have so many individuals that are willing to participate on the board, the DRB, advisory committees, work groups, environmental projects, providing office support, and the list goes on. The association couldn't function without their support. And now I would like to introduce our CEO, Hank Lynch, who will talk more in detail about RA's strategic plan and the direction the association is heading this year and beyond.
Hi, can everyone hear me? I'm trying to get my camera up. There we go. I think my camera should come up here. Good evening, everyone, and Kathy, thank you for presenting a wonderful outcome of 2019 and for your fantastic leadership through that year. What I'm going to do as my part of the presentation is go over our strategic planning process, how we went through it, what it looks like, and how the pandemic is affecting us as we move forward. First and foremost, please be aware that all of the materials I'm going to be presenting in my slides are going to be available online, and the complete strategic plan is also available online, although I will not, so I'm not going to go over word for word the entire plan, but if we could start the first slide, and we'll start talking a little bit about our process. Obviously, our process is built on the history of the organization and Bob Simon's dream. Can we go to the next slide, please? But as you build any strategic plan, there's three major components that go into it. First of all, we needed to review what's our passion. Our passion obviously is reflected in our mission, and our mission statements, our vision, and our core value statements. And the board spent some time reviewing all this. There was a little bit of tweaking to it, nothing that changed the overall concept of the mission. I think it made it stronger. And what we did not have in our previous strategic plan was a set of core values, which when you go through the document, you'll see those. And a lot of thought and energy was put into that. And I think it made the document and what we're doing much, much better. I think you need to go back to the slide I was just on, please. There you go. The second component of any plan is kind of evaluating, what is it specifically we can uniquely bring to our community that no one else is bringing. So, and what are the resources that are involved with that? And then obviously we need to look at, what drives, I think the major term a lot of people use is what's driving our resource engine. And we know that assessments do it, but we also want to see what are the other revenue sources that could drive our revenue engines and keep us moving forward. So all of this process started to take place in March of 2019. Most of the work was done by November. It actually involved reviewing our previous strategic plan to see what we had said we were going to do and did we do it. We actually looked back at the 2017 Stone Turn report. There was a lot of energy went into that. We wanted to make sure that we were in alignment with all of their recommendations. We reviewed all the current sources of revenue and expenses, and we reviewed the completed capital resources study and a lot of other studies that were put in place, including staff compensation studies and things like that. A lot of resources were utilized to kind of put this plan together. It also, as Kathy mentioned, it involved literally every staff member had they were included in the process, all the members of the board. And as Kathy spoke about, we did a brand and marketing study, which was an opportunity truly to get the feeling from all of our membership. And let me go over a little bit that here, just now. If you go to the next slide, ultimately the plan was approved on December 19th by the full board of directors. As Kathy mentioned, the brand study and the market study that we did really was looking to find out what we're doing well, what the membership would want us to do better, what are some new ideas they'd like to see us to consider and pursue. So can we go to the next slide, please? So I'm going to share, and again, all of this material, this entire study that was completed is online. I'm going to share a little bit of the data that came through that I thought was important to point out. There's a lot more data in the plan that when you have a chance to take a look at it, I think is pretty interesting and pretty telling. For example, we learned, the age of all the people that live in Reston. We learned their ethnicity. We learned their marital status. We learned how many men, how many women, a lot of statistics, including we are a very highly educated group of people that live in Reston with over 80, almost 90% of us have either a college degree or post-college degree. Very well informed, very educated, and very involved. Go to the next slide, please. We learned, how many people own homes, how many people live in condominiums, what household income is. One of the more interesting things that came out of it was how long people have lived in Reston. And I highlighted two things here. One shows that more than 25%, slightly more than 25% have lived in Reston for about 20 years. It also shows that slightly more than 25% have lived here 5 years or less. That kind of is an interesting dichotomy in that, and maybe where some tension sometimes shows up in some of the things and ideas that people are sharing. So I just thought that was an interesting fact to point out. And again, it just goes to show that we are a vibrant community with lots of viewpoints and lots of ideas. Next slide, please. We did learn and we were proud to find out that the vast majority of folks do think we're doing a good to excellent job. More than 73% thought that Reston Association was doing pretty good. We also found out that some people think we need to do the job a lot better. And and we were learning a lot from what they said. And that's the sort of many improvements we'll be putting into place and into play and are spelled out in the strategic plan, especially at the staff level, the strategic plan. Next slide, please. We also found out the things that they were satisfied with. And there's several pages of this in the document. But so if you go through this, we find out that how we manage our amenities, how we manage the things that we bring to the community, including things like the Walker Nature Center. Everyone seems to score that very high and think that we're doing a very good job with it. I did highlight the one point where they, on this first page of data that we're sharing, where they think that we can improve. And obviously, in our covenant standards, design, maintenance, use of the property, our whole system for that, a lot of folks are saying, well, you're doing okay, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And we've heard you loud and clear, and that is part of our strategy and goals as we go forward in the next couple of years with this strategic plan. Next slide, please. We also asked, what are you interested in? What are the things that, we got some feedback on what are the amenities that we offer that you like and appreciate and are we managing them? What are some of your ideas of things that you'd like to see us look into and maybe and get more community feedback on what we should be adding? This is just one of 2 or 3 pages in the document where it points out from the perspective of people that are residents, as well as folks that work in Reston, as well as folks that visit Reston, what they'd like to see us do and see improvement with. One I'll just point out is 4th from the left. It says, have easy access to electronic design review board and covenants and procedures, meaning trying to find an improved way to do this electronically, not just so that everyone has to come to a meeting all the time. And I think as we think about what may come out of what might be, a light at the end of the tunnel or some positive thing that comes out of this COVID-19 is an example of the meeting we're having today. We're doing this virtually, and if we can do this virtually, there's got to be a way that we can meet this recommendation by the community of finding a way to make our design review and covenants process a little bit easier electronically. So we've heard it. We're really looking into it very hard and look forward to seeing what we can do to make it happen. Next slide, please. The other thing that we really focused on were what are going to be the key pillars of what we're going to do over the next 3 years. Our strategic plan is based on 3 years, 20, 21, and 22. And we came up with 3. First, we are going to be preservation focused. Secondly, we're going to want to be something that inspires the community. The things we're going to be doing are things that the community is inspired to see us do, and we're going to be value focused. And while there's multiple bullet points underneath every one of these, let me just share a couple of these, and I've highlighted them. Under being preservation focused, we need to be more actively engaged in the continued land use development process in Reston. That was something that was made very clear to us, and I think is very important to everyone who lives and works and is part of the Reston community. So that is prevalent through our strategic plan. Being community inspired, that to us means, among other things, making Reston an even better place to live by creating member inspired amenities, things that you tell us that you want to, either for us to improve or to add. We will be looking at and seeing how we can do that. And certainly making sure that we have community input to anything that's being suggested. And then value focused. And one of the points that was expressed here is we want to make a commitment that every member and visitor not only gets valued from, but also feels valued by Reston Association. So we're not just looking for you to get value because you're using our parks, the trails and tennis courts and swimming pools. We want to make sure that you know that we as Reston Association value each and every one of you. And I know there's a lot of areas we need to improve in that. So next slide, please. Any business, and Reston Association is a type of business, a nonprofit business, goes through various strategic strategies and priorities. And as they advance, they look to grow. What we know that we need to do over the next 3 years as part of this plan is really spend our time focused on optimizing our core, meaning optimizing existing products, services, and programs for our existing members and customers. We're not going to try to stretch into new adventures or things like that. We know that we need to stay focused on our core and make sure that we get our core right before we start thinking about other areas to potentially move into. So that's the other part that was emphasized through the strategic plan. Next slide, please. All strategic plans have goals, and we have a list of goals here. There were 7 that the board approved. Those goals then the strategic goals get built out into objectives, key performance indicators, strategies, tactics, and metrics, how we measure the performance. And we have done that. But let me just kind of go through these 7 basic goals that make up the strategic plan. And as I said, and I've repeated a couple of times now, this plan is online and you can read in much more detail what it's all about. But our first goal that the board approved was Reston Association's source for annual revenues are growing and becoming more diverse with a focus on non-assessment income growth. Meaning we just can't depend on raising the assessment. We need to find ways that we can generate non-assessment revenue. And so that was made very clear, and that's included in this plan. Goal 2, Reston Association is viewed as a workplace of choice by current and potential employees. We know that any good business, any organization, one of the most key component is the staff. And we need to make sure that we can attract and retain a strong workforce as we continue the work here at Reston. Goal number 3, Reston Association has a clear, strong, and compelling external community presence, meaning we're out there, we're in the community, and we're involved. And we need to do that more so than we've been doing it in the past. Goal number 4, Reston Association will strive to preserve and increase homeowner property values. That's why we exist, to make sure that we not only give you a wonderful community to live in, but we are helping to preserve and increase property values of all our members. As an organization, goal 5, Reston Association focuses on innovation and outstanding customer relations management, meaning we need to be an outstanding customer service organization. And again, these are aspirational goals. We know that in some areas we do this very well, and in other areas we need to improve. And that's part of the plan, how we're going to improve. The Reston community has pride in Reston Association, goal number 6. If we're giving outstanding customer service and we're giving you the amenities and all the products that you want from us and services you want from us, you will have pride in us. And that's one of the major goals. And finally, goal number 7, Reston Association's facilities, programs, and services are aligned with members' needs and wants, are supported by sustainable business practices, and are coordinated with the organization's financial capacity, meaning we're operating Reston Association like a sound business with sound strategies, sound finances, and sound controls and good governance. So those are the 7 major goals. They're again outlined a little bit more detail in the plan that's online. Can we go to the next slide, please? But to show you how this kind of plays out inside of Reston, inside the organization, every one of these goals is built out into a complete strategy and is aligned with every department's goals internally and consequently and substantively with every staff's annual operational goals. So as I said earlier, goals that we set for a strategic plan then have objectives, key performance indicators, strategies, tactics, and metrics. But let me just point this one out for goal number 3 and just show you one example of the objectives associated with goal number 3. Again, Reston Association has a clear, strong, and compelling external community presence. The first objective is that Reston Association plays a key leadership role by remaining at the forefront of our community's current and future land use development process. If you think about what I pointed out in that one of the preservation pillars, that was one of the preservation pillars, that we're going to be more involved in land use that's taking place in Reston. A key performance indicator of that specific objective is RA initiates member and community meetings to identify, educate, and/or strategize in Reston land use issues. Some of the staff currently right now have already initiated that, and there's members in the communities that have been meeting several times before the virus kind of closed things down. We were meeting to address this specific issue. And then as a tactic that fits under this category, RA will retain the services of a land use professional either on staff or under contract. So land use and land preservation issues are very, very important. And that's how it's built out as an objective, key performance indicator, strategy, tactic, and ultimately a metric. And this document, for every one of these goals, we've built one of these out. They are shared with the department level. And as I said, go down to the individual staff level, what they ties into their specific tactics and objectives for the year. Next slide, please. All strategic plans also have to map out your finances, how you're going to generate operating revenue, what your expenses are going to be, and so on. And that has actually been done. We are looking at, the goal is to not see annual assessments increase above 2%. But to do that, and going back to that first goal that I mentioned that the board has emphasized, we have to be able to grow non-assessment revenue. And so we've put a goal down there of what that should be. And for 2020, it was 2.3%. Unfortunately, the world has not cooperated with us, and the pandemic is certainly impacting this budget line. We are well aware of it. We don't believe we're going to meet this particular goal, although we still have time for the end of the year. But there's a lot of unknowns that we don't, and until we learn from the governor when we can open up and how we can open up, this particular goal for 2020 is in question. But it doesn't mean that we're not taking actions internally to control expenses so that as we move forward, we still keep the budget manageable. So can I have the next slide, please? So consequently, as you kind of look at what's been happening with COVID-19 and its impact, we know that it's going to have an impact on summer camps, and particularly the number of campers. We have some of the details. We don't have all the details of what's being discussed in the parks and recreation world and things that we're learning from the state. But until the state tells us we can open and then gives us rules about how we can open, we are not sure. But we do know that we're going to have more than likely limited summer camps and limited number of campers. We're not sure when we're going to be opening dates for our pools, how many pools will be open on that opening date, and we're going to do everything in our power to keep everyone informed of what we're going to open, when we're going to open it. But I can assure you right now, not all the pools are going to open at the same time. It's a lot involved with opening a pool, including staffing. Can I go back to the slide one more time, please? Just to kind of in conclusion, we know that we're going to be reducing the 2020 earned non-assessment revenue required, and as I mentioned before, for the budget in 2020, but we will be adjusting the budget accordingly. The positive thing that may be coming out of this, though, as we think about it, is how we get people involved. And I think tonight is a good example of how we're doing that. And we're going to be exploring this even further, to seeing if we possibly can be even using some of our mobile phone device for participation. And I think I saw tonight already several folks have actually signed on using their mobile phones. And since 80% of our population uses a mobile phone, we think that that might be an opportunity for us moving forward. And we're looking at how our other associations and smaller government communities are doing this. So stay tuned on that. So that's kind of where we are. It's where we're going. And I can assure you, with our strategic plan, we're going to stay on focus despite the pandemic. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Okie dokie. So this is where we're going to figure out how nimble we are. Supervisor Alcorn was scheduled to come on at this time. I was going to be receiving a text message when he had logged in. He has still not, oh, I just got a message. He's about 10 minutes, but trying sooner. I'm going to go on. So if we can, I'm going to move on to talk about RA's Employee of the Year. He was selected by the association staff, and it's a special award because RA staff nominates individuals from within the organization that they feel best represents the values of RA and who often go above and beyond, providing outstanding service to the association and its members. I'm honored this evening to recognize Brett Nelson, RA's 2019 Employee of the Year. Brett is a master craftsman and construction supervisor at RA Central Services Facility Department. He joined RA almost 18 years ago in 2002 and consistently displays a positive, supportive, humbling, can-do attitude. When a project needs an expert craftsman with unlimited skills, Brett is the guy to count on. When snow needs to be removed from RA pathways, he's out there clearing the trails as one of our snow bomb operators. Whether installing bike racks at RA facilities, new trail markers around RA's expansive network of pathways, or designing and installing a screen fence at the lake house or safety fence at Pony Barn, he demonstrates that he's a true professional. He is RA's certified playground inspector, and he ensures our numerous tot lots are well maintained and even improves them by adding new features. Skills and accomplishments aside, Brett's attitude and dedication to the RA team, service to our members, and overall mission is what makes him stand out as RA's 2019 Employee of the Year. Congratulations, Brett. Okay, we still don't have Walter Alcorn on, so we're going to move right along and go to member comments. It's time for you to talk to us because I'm getting tired of talking. Before we get to member comments, though, I'm going to explain the rules here. Priority is going to be given to those members who pre-registered to speak, and we have 3 people who are pre-registered. If you're pre-registered, I'll call your name and you'll have the floor to speak. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes to make comment. At 2 minutes and 45 seconds, you'll hear a buzzer letting you know that your time will expire in 15 seconds. At 3 minutes, you will be muted and the next speaker will be called. Once we've heard from all pre-registered members, and that's 3 of them, who wish to speak, we'll open the floor to other members. When the floor is open to all, please use the raise hands button, which is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen on the control panel. For those who've never used Zoom, to raise your hand, look to the bottom of your screen, click on the participant window to open it. Once open, you will see the raise hand button, which is located to the left of the words yes and no. We'd ask that members only provide comment once this evening to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to participate. And once again, please be respectful in your comments. So I'm going to call on Tom Shelley as our first member comment.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. My name's Tom Shelley. I've been a Reston resident since 2001. Issue I'd like to address with the board and fellow residents is to make sure that everybody is fully aware that the Design Review Board last met as a full board in February. And the last I heard, at the beginning of this week, had cancelled all meetings for the foreseeable future. Although I hope Ms. Baum's opening remarks, there was something that you said in there that gives me a little bit of hope it may be sooner. There is a tentative plan to reconvene the full board in June, but it's only a tentative plan. If they do not meet, this will be a 3-month, or if they do meet in June, that there's still a 3-month backlog with no plan on how this backlog will be cleared. As a reminder, the Commonwealth of Virginia designated construction as an essential business, and construction projects have been continuing since the shutdown began. Counties and towns across the Commonwealth are continuing to review and approve new construction projects, but not in Reston. I'd like to draw the board's attention to Resolution 7 for the DRB, which specifies the use of technology and allows audio and video conference tools to be employed in the conduct of Design Review Board meetings. But to date, the DRB has failed to develop, communicate a plan, or use any of the technologies to conduct their meeting. And assuming tonight's meeting satisfies the criteria for an open meeting, I see no reason why the Design Review Board could not adopt and implement the same technologies moving forward. The result of the DRB's failure at this point to implement an alternate meeting process and the resulting delays in bringing real financial costs to members who are waiting on DRB review and approval of projects before they proceed. And in addition, there are multiple contractors who support these projects who are incurring real financial burdens as a result of the delay. So I urge the board to immediately direct the DRB or do whatever they can to use the tools at its disposal, as you're demonstrating this evening, to not only reinstate the DRB and get full board meetings going, but to clear the backlog that's accumulated and to do it as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shelley. Next is Michelle Shipp.
Kathy, Michelle's not actually appearing in our participant list.
Okay, then I'll move on to Ignacio Perez.
Can you hear us again?
Yes, I can. Hello, good evening. Mr. Shelley addressed a lot of the things that I was going to speak to, but I did want to mention one thing was that, the state or the county has a responsibility for cleaning up a lot of the culverts along the main roads. I live right off of Steeplechase at the bottom of the hill, and neither the county nor the state has come along and cleaned up all the debris that comes all the way down the hill and stops at the back of my property. So I would just ask the association on the behalf of all the individuals that back up to a main thoroughfare like that, if they would try and stay on top of the county and the state's responsibility to clean up those culverts of debris and everything else, because then I get overflow on my yard as well as my neighbors have a lot of flooding issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Okay.
So next we have Charles.
Like Mr. Colby, Charles Colby. Go ahead.
Hi, Charles Colby. I'm in Hunter's Green Cluster. I'm a member of the board there. I'd like to just follow on in the comments by the first gentleman who commented, and I would agree. I think you have, we've experienced serious breakdowns in the covenant and DRB review process. And in our case, it affects issues that are related to safety and security. So we're very concerned with you starting to leverage technology and to shore up your processes to try to get things moving. Right now, one of our major projects is on indefinite hold. We have no idea when we can proceed, and it's very frustrating. I would also suggest, and maybe you already do this in your KPIs, that for your covenant process, you have a customer experience system where you measure satisfaction with the process. I think that would be something that would be very useful. And then I just had a question, which is, I noticed there's a big jump in the budget or the spending from this year to next. I'm just wondering real quickly what the cause of that was.
Hank, are you on? I don't have any of the numbers in front of me, sir, so unfortunately, I'm not adept at doing that.
Something like a 10 or 11% increase, and you were increasing dues by 2%. So I was just curious what the driver was.
I don't have that off the top of my head right now. Let me, if I have your name, Mr. Colby, I will get back in touch with you with what exactly is showing on that increase and what specifically the increase will be. I'm sorry,
Okay.
off the top of my head.
Charles Colby, you can even just email Hunter's Green Cluster Board.
Okay.
I can send my email address.
If you could send that to me personally, I think, everyone knows my email. It's hlynch@reston.org.
Okay.
And then I'll get that information back to you. I'm sorry I don't have it. I'm working from home and I'm sorry I don't have it off the top of my head.
No problem. I understand we're all doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, it looks like Ed is next.
Good evening. I wanted to follow up on the strategic plan, particularly to encourage the board to seriously rethink its commitment to WebTrack and the current website and the lack of any mobile app to contact RA. I won't beat you up over that member suite failure for the assessment failure payments, but there really needs to be a single web presence and sign in, particularly for voting, paying assessments, and activities. Shelling out to WebTrack and then paying that fixed fee of $2.75 for most activities, that amounts to a 10 to 15% surcharge just to pay by credit card. So I think you're really hurting yourself there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Christina, anybody else?
That's all I'm seeing.
Okay, thank you. I understand that Supervisor Alcorn is in.
Yeah, hi there. Can you all hear me?
Hi there. Thank you for joining us.
Oh,
This is your first RA meeting.
it is virtually as supervisor, especially. So yeah, it's twofer.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I apologize for my crazy schedule tonight. We had budget public hearings, and then I just got off. Actually, I got off early. Northern Virginia Transportation Commission call where we were talking about the Silver Line shutdown for the summer. And so just FYI, we're pushing back a little bit. We're making a little bit of noise within the metro world. Even though we only have 5% ridership right now, we want to make sure we're not being taken for granted. And the fact that we've basically place these big bets on Metro Rail. Please don't shut down the line without coordinating with us ahead of time, please. So anyway, that's the meeting that I just came from. So this looks like a much more pleasant meeting.
Well, we haven't had any glitches yet. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing. I think your office is doing a tremendous job with coordinating all the volunteer services to help people at this time. I mean, I'm constantly amazed at how many notices I get about the various things.
Well, thank you, Kathy. We're trying to fill the gap in terms of information locally across the Hunter Mill district. where we have opportunities for people to volunteer during this time, we're trying to get that out. And then also we're trying to be a bridge to get information out about what our health department knows and what's going on with our connector buses, all the different local infrastructure pieces that have been impacted by this. And we're down to 3 days a week. We were doing it 5 days a week or more. But at this point, we're all kind of, I think, hunkered down and trying to make our process work. I'm very focused on trying to make sure that our government remains open to public participation and accessible. And I want to salute RA for organizing this. This is fantastic. I love, I'm going to use this example and maybe work on some of the IT folks in Fairfax County. Look, this is working great. What's wrong? Come on, let's be bold and figure this out.
There was a lot of work in the background.
I bet there was. Thank you. Thank you for putting that together. So certainly a lot with going on relating to COVID. And then also I mentioned earlier, we finished our budget public hearing process today. And we have a really weird budget this year. We have a very constrained fiscal year 21 budget that starts on July 1st. Basically, it's more or less a freeze of what was of the current year budget. So a lot of those things that basically we had planned to do, like more money for affordable housing and body cams on police officers countywide, we put on hold. But what's weird about this is we also simultaneously have this big chunk of money coming in from the CARES Act from the federal government. And so that money can only be spent, it may only be spent on COVID related activities. So going through that process to figure out what's COVID, what can be covered under that is an interesting one. So I've been definitely trying to identify where our most vulnerable populations could really benefit from the assistance. A lot of people working on that, not just in the county, but also Cornerstones and a lot of other nonprofits around the county have been focused on that. And I'll just bring it home. Something else that's been very, very much on my mind and has been pretty much a source of frustration and irritation over the last couple of weeks. We have a homeless problem in Reston. We have for a long time. It is definitely part of our community and part of our history, going back to the founding at the beginning of the Embry-Rucker shelter. With our libraries closed during the day, it is a much more visible issue. That community all of a sudden is out of the shadows and literally onto the streets during the day, and in our bus shelters and on our park benches and parking lots and basically just trying to keep going. And with that visibility comes a reminder to all of us that we do have a responsibility to our most vulnerable citizens. We have in Fairfax County, we have a program going where we actually have contracts with, well, I believe 2 hotels right now where we are placing people that are at serious risk of the COVID virus, either because of their age or some pre-existing condition. And as of yesterday, we had placed 89 homeless individuals into hotel rooms. We have capacity for about 223 at this point. It's a big challenge to mobilize this effort. Basically it's not like you can rent a bunch of hotel rooms and then just say, okay, there you go. Managing that process has taken, I think, longer than certainly I had hoped and expected, but it is something I am not going to shut up on this until, frankly, we offer every homeless person on the street in Fairfax County a hotel room. It might not be permanent. It might not necessarily lead to anything beneficial when this period goes away and the money runs out. But, you know, it's not a financial issue right now. We have money. We can do this. It's really unprecedented that we have these types of resources available to just, you know, give our homeless population an opportunity to get off the street and to, well, anyway, it's something I'm very passionate about.
So are they staying in hotels locally?
We actually, the first hotel that was contracted is in the Falls Church area. The second one is local. It is in the Reston, Herndon area.
Okay,
So
great.
it's close.
Terrific.
So
Well,
anyway, just one other quick thing on that. I think it's also with I would say the closing of the library also underscores the need to develop a much better daytime program for our homeless population here locally. We basically do not have those types of daytime services that we need. And there are other models around the county and around the country for what can be done on that. And that's another thing that I'm very focused on, not just the immediate term and taking advantage of our hotel program, but also what can we do locally to provide day services to help our homeless population get on their feet and ultimately get into housing and become more productive citizens. So anyway, thank you,
so
Kathy,
very
for
much.
letting me. I'll just go on and on if you let me. So you should stop.
Thank you
I'm
for
happy to
joining
take
us.
if anybody has any questions or ahead.
If anybody wants to raise their hand, go right ahead.
Hey, there is one big piece of news I got to say. The Reston Farmers Market opens when, John? He's on mute. Sorry, I surprised him. I'll answer that. May 9th, right?
Correct.
May 9th. So, John, your advocacy makes a difference. So, anyway, nice
Thank
job
you.
on making that challenge very visible.
Thank you, Walter.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Walter.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks for letting me pop in on your meeting, all.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, at this time, I'd like to introduce Ed Abbott to deliver the results of the 2020 Board of Directors election.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you for your service on the board. Good evening. My name is Ed Abbott, and I am Chair of the Elections Committee. And I gotta start the video. There we go. I'm here to announce the results of the 2020 Board of Directors election, which were tabulated by IntelliScan, the association's third-party county agent. As many of you know, we experienced a number of problems with the voting process when the election was opened. The RA staff, working closely with the Elections Committee and the county agent IntelliScan, fixed those problems quickly and thereby assuring the integrity of the election. As the Elections Committee has done in the past, it will conduct evaluations of all aspects of this election. The committee will then make recommendations to the board to improve the voting process for the next election. As you know, throughout this election, we've been focused on meeting the 10% quorum eligible votes to make the election results official. This year, one board seat was unopposed. There were 3 seats, each with 2 people running. I am pleased to announce that the 10% quorum was successfully reached during the voting period for all 4 races. 1 at-large seat for a term of 3 years, 1 at-large seat for a term of 1 year, 1 seat for a 3-year term for the Hunters Woods Dogwood District, 1 seat for a 3-year term for the apartment owners representative. This table, I guess it's, oh, there we go. This table shows the votes cast in each race. This year, we saw a 16% turnout for Reston generally and even higher turnout for some districts. Thanks to those who voted and participated in the local governance of our community. Now on to the results. The winner of the at-large term for 3 years with 4,308 votes is Robert T. Petrine. The winner of the at-large race for a term of 1 year with 4,753 votes is Sarah Seville. Excuse me, I need a drink of water. The winner of the at-large race for a term of 1 year with 4,753 votes is Sarah Seville de Souza. The winner of the Hunters Woods Dogwood District for a term of 3 years with 1,273 votes is Karen Anton. And finally, the winner of the Apartment Owners Representative seat for a term of 3 years with 1,330 votes is Mike Collins. Congratulations to our new board. We wish the new members well as they step into this important leadership role for the Reston community and thank those board members continuing their terms for their service. Detailed reports of the election results will be made available shortly on the RE website, www.reston.org. The members of the Reston Association's 2020 Board of Directors are Tom McLaurin, at-large director, Robert T. Petrine, at-large director, Sarah Seville de Souza, at-large director, Vin Iyer, at-large director, Julie Bitzer, South Lakes District Director, Aaron Webb, Lake Ann Tall Oaks District Director, John Mooney, North Point District's Director, Karen Anton, Hunters Woods Dogwood District Director, and Mike Collins, Apartment Owners Representative. Thank you, and again, congratulations. And now here's Hank.
Thank you, and congratulations to our new board. We do have 3 board members that are stepping down, and I'd like to thank them and share their names with you all. And I know we all can't applaud them, give them a round of applause via social media, but I hope as you see them about in the community, please tell them how grateful we are. First is Doug Britt. Doug joined the board for a 1-year term in 2019 and served on the Environmental Advisory Committee. Doug has played an important role in our community for many years and was part of the 2018 RA Working Group of the year, which had the Reston Annual State of the Environment Report, the RASER report. Doug was honored as one of 2 2019 RE Volunteers of the Year for his effort to guide Reston into becoming a member of the Biophilic Cities Network. In 2019, the Reston Annual State of the Environment RASER Working Group, led by Doug Britt, received the Fairfax County Environmental Excellence Award for organizations. We're very proud of Doug and very proud of that group. Doug has an extensive and very impressive business background, and I have been extremely grateful for and will miss his steady, insightful, and wise leadership while serving on the Reston Association's Board of Directors. So thank you very much, Doug, for your time and your dedicated service, and just thank you. And I hope those of you in the community that see Doug out and about, please express your gratitude. He worked very hard and diligently for our organization. Next, leaving our board is Eric Carr. Eric joined the board for a 3-year term in 2017. Eric has lived in Reston for over 20 years. He's raised his family here. I believe he epitomizes what it means to be a Restonian with his extensive involvement in all aspects of the community. Eric joined the board as an agent of change, bringing and utilizing his corporate nonprofit board background along with his extensive business leadership and management experience to help move the organization forward. Eric has served on the board's operating committee, fiscal committee, legal committee, and environmental advisory committee, and he serves as RA's treasurer where he has brought a business-oriented strategic focus and sustainable budgeting process to Residents Association's operations and the fiscal committee. Despite occasionally having to have those difficult conversations with folks, he always did it with professional style and grace. His efforts have significantly helped reshape Reston Association. When asked, staff expressed gratitude for many things about Eric, with the concise, focused, and always on point meetings Eric conducted at the top of the list. Again, Eric, thank you so very, very much for your time, your dedication, and your service to our community. And finally, and a bit sadly for many of us, Kathy Baum is stepping down as RA's board president. Kathy joined the board in June of 2018 to fill the seat vacated by David Bobson. Kathy has lived in Reston for more than 30 years, and from my perspective, epitomizes what it means to be a Reston leader. Kathy's extensive business acumen is based on an exceedingly successful senior level leadership career held with one of the country's top home builders. Kathy has an extensive involvement in all aspects of the community, including, among many things, being a graduate of Leadership Fairfax and a past president of the Reston Chamber of Commerce. As Cassie has shared during the statement, during the State of the Organization's report, her leadership as board president has guided the organization through one of its most successful years. The success would not have happened without her tireless dedication to making RA better. Over the past year, Kathy has contributed her wisdom and experience on countless issues, averaging, I suspect, more than 40 hours of work of volunteer service to RA in our community. When asked, staff expressed enormous gratitude for Kathy's always being there no matter the event or when they needed her to show up, whether it was early in the morning or late in the evening. Personally, I could not have done my job during my first full year of service as RACO without Kathy's steadying counsel and wise advice. Kathy is a fearless leader from my perspective, and I admire her personally very, very much. To go on, the board has asked me to read the following. Kathy, it seems like only a few months ago that I nominated you for RA president, and we elected you to lead our merry band of 9 in service of our Reston community. What a wonderful, astute decision that was by us. You stepped into your board executive role and with 2 solid achievements. You were instrumental in the CEO selection process and in the renegotiation of our headquarters lease agreement, saving RA, us, more than $1 million over the life of that lease. And the past year included guiding us through our biannual budget cycle. None of these were easy tasks. More than anything, your steady hand on RA's wheel, coupled with the sage wisdom of your professional career experience, contributed to an exceptionally solid year and to restoring positive relationships between and among staff and the board. Thank you for giving of yourself and your time to our community. Thank you, and more thank you, with much gratitude from the board of directors. So Kathy, thank you very much. I know all of us will miss you as our leader, and I hope everyone, when you see Kathy out in the community, to say thank you. She's giving it all, and we are greatly appreciative. So back to you, Kathy. I think we're back to you, Kathy, with closing remarks.
Thank you, Hank. I appreciate comments. Before I close out this meeting, I want to share one board action that took place recently under my leadership, for which I see regular as individuals to report sources of income exceeding $5,000 per calendar year from business or contractual relations with the Reston Association or any affiliated Reston interest groups. I'm very grateful to the Board Governance Committee for all their work on this policy and getting it completed during our current term. It's truly been a pleasure serving our membership, and I look forward to seeing you around our community. And that ends our meeting for this evening. Good night, and thank you.